Welcome to episode 9 of Cardinal Territory. I'm Katie Woo. He's Trevor Rosenthal. Happy winter warm-up week, the event of the year, or at least the off-season, probably. It is the Cardinals' maybe unofficial start to baseball season. Nothing says baseball like snow on the ground and single-digit temperatures in St. Louis, but we are excited to reunite with the organization this weekend anyway. Trevor, how are you?
Hey, Katie. I'm doing great. Good to see you, as
Yes.
always. Yeah, excited for this weekend. It's finally here. I got something to look forward to. We got the big event going to be in St. Louis and see a lot of familiar faces, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I'm eagerly anticipating having, at least I'll know I'll have something to write. I mean, this offseason has been so slow. I talked about this last episode. I was like aggressively chasing arbitration rumors, which is a ridiculous thing to do. It's ridiculous to like be like, oh, is this guy maybe going to get a contract, or what's he going to make for his 1 year? Because I just hadn't done that in a while. And I was like, I feel going through our athletic Slack channel every day, all of these beat writers have such talented stuff. Their stories are so good, such in-depth reporting on all their signings. And I'm like the person at the group party or whatever, the group project, I should say, that doesn't contribute anything and is just kind of there. So we always get these messages from our bosses like, great job, team. Like our baseball vertical just continues to crush. And I'm like, yeah, we do. I'm not doing anything, but the rest of you guys are doing great. So we'll be excited.
A little envious of the rest of the market. I mean,
I
I'm there
am.
with you. I'm there with you. I can't wait for us to have some really good content to discuss on this show because I mean we are gonna bring it here at Cardinal Territory. We just need the substance to go along with it. We can only carry it so far.
I know we can only kind of BS for so long. We need actual substance to talk about. Otherwise, like I don't know. I don't even want to think about what we get into if this continues. So at least we know this weekend we'll have a ton of, I don't want to say news. I don't know if we're gonna have actual news, but people are going to talk to us. So that is exciting. Interviews, press conferences, hopefully a free lunch. It'll be great.
I love you had Bernie on last week. I was listening to him and he referred to himself as being under me in the context of coming on the show. And I was like, Bernie, like you are the expert here. I'm trying to learn from you. So I appreciate him giving me a couple of shout outs. That was fun to listen to. And of course, he's always fun to listen. He does a great job. He knows the Cardinals inside and out. So great guest. You guys did a good job last week.
Thank you. We'll have to we'll have to do all three of us on our next episode because I definitely plan on having Bernie back. He was great. Yeah, let's get into it. Before we talk about all things winter warm-up, again, so exciting. We did have a little bit of news. Andrew Kittredge was not expected to come back to the Cardinals this season, 2025. Oh, I got rid of Trevor. Oh my gosh, I'm doing so bad with the video. There we go. I'm good. Third time's the charm. Andrew Kittredge has signed a 1-year, $10 million deal with the Baltimore Orioles. Again, he was not expected to be brought back to the organization, but still a significant departure nonetheless when you think about what Kittredge did for this Cardinals bullpen last year, one of the most efficient and reliable bullpens in the National League. And he was right up there and holds leaders among National League relievers as well. Trevor, what are your thoughts on this signing? First of all, nice little payday for Kittredge.
Yeah, you love to see that. You know, it's not easy to make that type of money being in the bullpen, and especially as a setup guy. So good for him. I'm super happy for him. And my favorite thing, or I guess how I got introduced to Andrew Kittredge is him being referred to as the drunk uncle because of his pitching mechanics on Twitter. So those responses spurred up again with this signing, and it's fun to see that. But, you know, a great pitcher and a guy that's going to be hard to replace. I mean, there's some that's a lot of innings, a lot of solid innings that are going to have to be replaced in one way or another this year.
Yeah, that's funny what you say about Kittredge's mechanics, because the first time he came out, my dad is on West Coast, like loved the Giants and A's growing up, but religiously watches the Cardinals. So because it's all we talk about is baseball. So the first time Kittredge comes out of the bullpen, my dad goes, this guy looks like he should be playing like adult league softball with his mechanics. It's so easy. And he loved Andrew Kittredge from that. Like, so I don't know, was so effortless. And I'm like, how is this guy throwing gas? He literally looks like he could go be like across the street playing like a pickup softball game. So we will miss that. And I think Cardinals fans will miss that presence. But the good news is, because it's January, we can still be optimist, I guess, about the 2025 season. There are some internal candidates to replace Kittredge. Trevor, who you got? Who are you looking at internally to take that next step up in the bullpen?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at the roster as it stands right now, not a ton of household names or names that would jump out. And first and foremost, to have a successful bullpen, it takes the whole unit. If you have multiple guys, or really every single guy that's contributing in a positive manner, it helps out everybody. It takes the stress level off of everybody, not just the team in general, but the whole pitching staff. So it's going to be a group effort, and it's nice that you have a solid piece like Ryan Helsley. And I would say at the very minimum, you need to have two guys. And for me, the way I look at it right now, that second guy is most likely going to be Ryan Fernandez, a guy that can pitch late in the game, pitch in big spots, and do a good job and eat up some considerable innings. And beyond that, I mean, the door's kind of open. There's definitely a lot of talent, a lot of guys that I'm impressed with. I'm glad that they have some good depth on the left-handed pitching side. I think that's going to be a big help. But again, we're going to have a lot more to talk about once we get into spring training. Right now, it's for me a lot of question marks to be answered beyond those two guys.
I agree with you. Ryan Fernandez was the Rule 5 pick last year. It is tough being a Rule 5 pick because you have to post. If you don't, you're basically, I mean, the Cardinals can't keep you. And if you're on a Rule 5 pick, unless you're on the injured list, you have to stay on the active roster all year long. So it did complicate things from a roster construction standpoint, because as you know, in the bullpen, it's all about like, hey, next man up, who's the freshest arm? But Fernandez could have complicated things a lot more if he wasn't as effective as he was. And he absolutely had a great rookie campaign, and he's going to be factored in for some of those high leverage spots. Jojo Romero, I thought we also saw had a breakout year last year. He's a guy that's going to take the ball as often as he can. Man, when you think about that first half of the season, the Romero to Kittredge to Helsley pipeline, 7th, 8th, 9th inning every day, those guys posted and no one said no. Kittredge would, I don't even know. I need to know like his strength training plan, his diet plan, because that dude was always down to pitch. And even when Ollie Marmol was like, I need to stay away from you, Kittredge was like, no, I'm fine. And you could see that kind of mentality with JoJo too. But Cardinals fans, they know these guys. They saw them last year. Again, a really effective bullpen for the club. I'm going to go with a name that I think most fans will recognize, but we haven't seen him too much, at least to this point. I'm going Gordon Graceffo. And here's my disclaimer. The Cardinals haven't designated a role for him yet. I'm sure he'll come to spring training as a starter, as they all do. But if you're looking for someone that can bring high radar in short bursts, I think that's Gordon Graceffo. The biggest struggle he's had in his professional career is sustainability. And as a starter, of course, if you go 3 innings and your stuff is great, awesome. But we've seen Graceffo's stuff start to dip after the 4th inning, after the 5th inning, where he's not as effective. If obviously, I think the best situation would be for him to figure out that stuff. And maybe he has. That's why we can talk about it at Winter Warm-Up with him. So exciting. But if that's not something that he's been able to fix, if that's something where he's more effective in short bursts, I would love to see what he brings to the Cardinals bullpen. I think we're going to see him get a shot to make that major league club come spring training. But yeah, the Cardinals are going to have some guys step up. Chris Roycroft had a nice showing early on. What are we going to see from Riley O'Brien? He's been most of the year hurt last year. There are names to look at. They aren't household names, like you said, Trevor, but they are names nonetheless. So it will be exciting to see how that club replaces Andrew Kittredge, especially given how important and how critical, frankly, that bullpen was last year.
This is going to sound bad, but how do you say Kyle Leahy?
Leahy, don't worry. I mess up their names all the time, and I just guess. And then they tell me if it's wrong, so it's good.
Leahy.
Yeah.
I'm excited about him. You mentioned Riley O'Brien. He has some nasty stuff. So, I mean, there's guys, there's some arms. When I was doing some research preparing for this and watching video of all the guys that they have to choose from, at least on the 40-man roster, there's options there. So that to me is exciting. But like I said, it's going to take everybody kind of piecing it together and finding their stride, hopefully early in the season. And I'm looking forward to that.
The good news is Ryan Helsley most likely, like 99%, is going to be back, got himself a nice payday, a nice raise, well-deserved. It is some comforting when you're going to have a younger bullpen, most likely, to have a veteran presence, someone who's really commanded last season as one of baseball's best relievers, locking down your ninth inning. So I'm excited to see what Ryan Helsley has to say about his offseason as well. Let's get to it. Let's get to the main event. Winter warm-up preview, because that's where we're at this point in the offseason. Trevor, this is your first winter warm-up as an alum, correct?
That is correct, Katie. Yeah, first one in a while. Haven't experienced the winter warm-up in a while. So for me, like that's it's something as a player you got excited about, because at this point you've had 3 months in the off season and you've been working hard, and you're excited to see the rest of the guys, see what their progress has been in the off season. It's kind of funny because during this week, during the winter warm-up, when you see guys, you'll see the guy who maybe lost 20 pounds, you'll see the guy who maybe gained 20 pounds, and so there's a lot of conversation that comes up after you're able to kind of see everybody in person. But I mean, aside from that, aside from seeing your teammates and the staff and the coaches, it's always good to see, especially in St. Louis. I mean, the support, support personnel, they're the people that help the most to make make it easy for the players to get on the field, and all the behind the scenes stuff that you don't see. And for me, I always had a great appreciation for these people, and so it's touching base with them, asking them how their winter has been, how the holidays have been, checking in on how their families are doing, and that I'm excited for that as well. I'm sure even today, I don't know how many years it's been since I was at the winter warm up, but I'm sure I'm going to see a lot of those people as well. But even we talked about the writers' dinner coming up in the 1985 NL championship team. Seeing those guys, seeing the red jacket Hall of Fame players for the Cardinal Hall of Fame players, that is exciting as well. And it's weird now being an alum and kind of being put into that category. There might be a young pitcher on the Cardinal staff that's going to approach me and say, "Oh, Trevor, I watched you pitch while I was growing up," and that's how I feel when I see these guys. So I'm excited for all of those. What about you, Katie?
It all comes full circle. Now, this is exciting. I know you did plenty of winter warm-ups, and did they have Cardinal caravans when you were a player coming through the system?
They did. I went on a few of those, and those are legendary. That's when you really get to know somebody more than what you experience just running into them and having a brief conversation. And I had my favorite, most favorite Cardinal caravan attendee, and I'm sure we'll see him this year, was Danny Cox. Danny Cox was a legend, and we just hit it off. I mean, he's an easy guy to get to know. He's very outgoing, but spending time with him on the bus in between stops, and then overnight, spending time with him when the day was done, I really got to hear some great stories. And as a young player, when those guys encourage you, it elevates you. And to get that boost of confidence heading into the next season, it meant a lot for me. So hopefully see Danny. I know Ricky Horton is always a fun guy, a great gentleman to be around, and then also Todd Worrell. Todd Worrell is a good friend of mine. So I hope I get to run into all those peeps.
Well, I think all three of them will be at the Writers' Dinner. Ricky Horton is actually getting an award. I'm a big Ricky Horton fan as well. So I'm excited for that. I love the Writers' Dinner. Look, I'm biased. I understand. But I think it's pretty unique coming outside of St. Louis. And, there are 25-ish chapters of baseball writers throughout the country. And the only two chapters that still do an annual writers' dinner are St. Louis and New York. And the reason, New York is always going to have a writers' dinner. It's New York. It's where you present the national awards like MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, etc. But the fact that St. Louis can still do its annual chapter award is because of the community. It's because of Cardinals fans. We do this because there is, tradition is so important, as we both know, with this organization, but there is truly a desire from the community to do this kind of event every year. And I think it's really special because I really hadn't, I didn't really know that any other chapter continued to do this outside of New York. So coming into St. Louis and seeing that there was still a writers' dinner with our own awards that is really, I think, accepted and the community is excited for, that's pretty cool. So yeah, I think our program this year is really fun. We have some great people, but for I think winter warm up, I just like to see my friends, right? I like to see the writers that I haven't seen in that I spend almost every day with from February to the end of September. And all of a sudden they just get like taken away from me for the off season. I love seeing the broadcasters. We talked about Ricky Horton, Chip Carey, Brad Thompson, Mike Claiborne, all those guys. They're wonderful. I put Alexa Datt in there, but I literally see her like every week. She's one of my best friends. So don't miss her that much because I see her all the time. And it's just nice because I think we get excited for baseball. The holidays are over. It's January. It's cold. It's snowy. We're all thinking about Jupiter, at least I am, and the sunshine. And winter warm up, you get to kind of talk to these players that you haven't seen in forever, the coaches too, and get a feel of what it's going to be like to go back to baseball land in less than a month. So that's exciting for me. I know that we just got today the list of players that are going to be that we do interviews with, and the only like major league guy that I don't see on there other than Nolan Arenado, which was not expecting him to come. I think it would be very awkward if an organization was talking about trading a player all year long, and then all of a sudden he was expected to come and talk about the future of a team that he may or may not be part of. That aside, I don't see Nolan Gorman here, and I think that's the only starter or like 26-man guy there that's not going to make it. Sonny Gray was a late addition, so that's exciting. So is Wilson Contreras. So these are all guys that we haven't really talked to since the end of the season. And I know I personally enjoy all the interviews that come along with winter warm-up as well.
Yeah, I'm sure those guys, I mean, they're probably excited to get back into the baseball swing of things as well. And maybe that spurred them to come and join this event. So it's good to hear that they're going to be there. Another name that I missed, and I shouldn't have, is Ozzie Smith. Always really cool to see Ozzie. What a just a special person to have as a St. Louis Cardinal, and all that he continues to do for the organization. Willie McGee, Jason Isringhausen, speaking of closers, and Ryan Helsley and myself. Jason was a big part of my mentorship in my career, so it'll be good to hopefully see him. But yeah, I think I didn't know that about the St. Louis chapter being one of the only two that still do this annual event. And when I think about the writers' dinner, I think it's important. I mean, the writers are ultimately that conduit between the fan base and the players and the organization. And you all do such a good job, especially in St. Louis, of covering the team and making the information accessible to the fan base. And we are fortunate in St. Louis to have such a strong fan base, but can't dismiss the work that the broadcasters and the writers and all the media team do to expel that coverage. So yeah, I'm this is going to be new for me, kind of brushing shoulders with the media and the writers in a different form and fashion this year. So hopefully there's no weird initiations or anything that I have to be ready for, but I'm looking forward to that.
No, the only writer that would like plan something weird like that would be me. So you don't have to worry about it. I give the other writers a lot of patience sometimes because I say some wild things up there. I'm just trying to, lighten the mood, entertain people. It doesn't always fly. They're like, why is she talking? Why is she still here? So you'll be safe, most
That's
likely,
funny.
as we'll see.
So I teamed up with the right person. That's
you
what you're
did.
telling
You did.
me.
I'll save you.
Unbeknownst to me, I got in with the cool crowd.
Sure. I mean, if we use the word cool very loosely, yeah, absolutely. So I was, getting into my little reporter brain, and because I going back to what you just said about having things to share with the fans. I wish I had more things to share with the fans this winter. Don't get me wrong. I've taken a lot of PTO. It's been nice, but I enjoy these back and forth conversations. It's part of the reason why I wanted to start the show with you, is because it allows the back and forth, the conversation, and then sharing the knowledge that they hopefully trusted me to provide. So when I was going through, I was like, who am I most excited to interview? And I couldn't pick a couple. And it's not necessarily that I'm like antsy to ask these questions. I just really want to know how these people feel. So let's go and pull up my little calendar. Saturday's a full day, so I think we're going to kick it off with John Mozeliak around 10:30 or so. That's going to be an interesting one, just because we always start with Mo, and you can look at it two ways. There's either not a lot to talk about for the lack of moves, or a lot to talk about because there haven't been very many moves. So excited to see where things stand with what he says in a public forum, right? Like what I appreciate about winter warm up is it allows these people, whether it's front office execs, coaches, or players to come up and in a public forum kind of share how they feel. So I'm excited to see what Mo says. We got some fun players, Sonny Gray on Saturday, Ryan Helsley, Brendan Donovan, and then two of your old pals will close out the day. John Jay and Daniel Descalso are going to be our closing interviews on Saturday. Here's something about Descalso. He is a good interview. I remember, I think like the very first game of spring training last year, it's his first game, if you will, as bench coach, and it's a split squad, which is so weird. So Ollie takes half the team, and Descalso stays at the home at Roger Dean. I don't believe in doing away games at spring training, so it was very easy for me to stay. And I was ready to grill him just as a joke because it's like spring training. I was ready. I had all my stats. I was going to question every decision. Why was he so prepared? Why did he crush it? I was like, oh man, no, he was on it. And he wasn't even trying. Like he was just such a good interview. And I'm sure John Jay is as well because they all come from that little branch, right? Like Skip Schumacher, fantastic interview. So maybe you should come in. Maybe you should come in and grill them because obviously I didn't do a very good job.
I will try my best to grill. But I agree. They are never not prepared. My favorite Daniel Descalso story, and this really summed up what I view Daniel as a person, is the year in spring training when they were moving Matt Carpenter to second base. Of course, Descalso was our second baseman the year before, and so that could be an awkward situation. But watching how Descalso handled that blew my mind. He was out there every single day with Matt Carpenter, showing the ropes, giving him feedback, teaching him the position, a position that Carp had never played at the major league level before. And I just watched this go on throughout the whole spring training, and then it led into the season where Carp kind of, took his spot on the roster, took the playing time from Descalso. And I have so much respect for that. That is not an easy thing to do as a Major League Baseball player, let alone just as a human being. Help somebody take time away from you. So yeah, I will never have anything bad to say about Daniel Descalso for that, but I'm all for giving a hard time because you better believe that Daniel Descalso has given me plenty of hard times, and John Jay is always right next to him, egging it on. So yeah, let's go and get those guys for sure.
Yes. I love a good an instigator. I wonder what it's going to be like to have Ollie, Descalso, and John Jay all together at once and how that's going to go. It should be fun. I will say, I think the Cardinals coaching staff in general does a great job of being accessible. There are some funny guys out there, Stubby Clapp, Pop Warner. You go down the list. I really enjoyed this year, the coaching staff last year, and most of them are coming back. Other things I'm looking forward to at winter warm-up. Sunday, we got a lot of fun players coming up. Pedro Pajes, he just spent about a week or so down in Orange County with Nolan Arenado and Lars Nootbaar, so that's pretty good company. Excited to see how that went for him. Zach Thompson, he's a name we didn't really hear much of last year, and I think the Cardinals are trying to give him one more shot to see what he can do, if he can make this roster, if he can be a legitimate piece for them. But the guys that I'm really looking forward to, no surprise, Mason Wynn, Jordan Walker on Sunday. They're just...
Those are our boys.
About them. We know how I feel. I'm excited.
Same here. Mason Wynn's my guy. I'm excited to, Jordan Walker, he's your guy. So yeah, let's hype them up. Let's get them ready for this season. They got to make us look good. Speaking of looking good, the coaching staff, you mentioned the coaching staff. Look, this is my view. I was thinking about this today while I was listening to you and Bernie. If the Cardinals, really every win that the Cardinals get this year, huge kudos to Marmol, Descalso, Jay, the whole coaching staff, because it's a tough situation. You have this kind of dual head of leadership with Mozeliak and Chaim Bloom, and who knows who's looking over their shoulder or each other's shoulder, who's really calling the shots. So a challenging year. We've seen it through this offseason. We talk about it almost every week at this point of no news, and not much going on. So I'm prepared to give them all the credit that they're going to deserve for all the wins this year.
I love that energy. I have a quick story about the Cardinals coaching staff. This is 2023, but most of the people involved are still here. And in 2023, we don't like to talk about that year. And it was September. Cardinals are in Baltimore. Nothing matters anymore except Adam Wainwright's chase to 200. And this, if he wins against Baltimore, would be win number 199. And that coaching staff, from Ollie to their pitching coach, Dusty Blake, to all of the subs that they did, to their bullpen catchers, to the assistant pitching coaches. They managed that game like it was Game 7 of the World Series. They did a fantastic job. And the Cardinals ended up winning. Adam Wainwright gets the win. His next start, he gets 200, and that's a career. Hell yeah, Adam. But I remember going into the clubhouse after and looking at Ollie, and I was like, you guys managed the hell out of that game. That was so fun to watch in a season where it really felt like everything was lost, to see this entire coaching staff band together and execute this flawless game plan. Because look, we cook these guys a lot when they make a bad mistake or something that we don't understand from a bullpen perspective, sub bench, whatever. I think we should give credit when credit is due. And that what stands out to me as one of Ollie Marmol's best games. And because of that, Adam Wainwright got 200, and we had something to celebrate in what was otherwise a very, very sad year.
Yeah, that was a huge highlight for me watching that all happen. I remember thinking, because there was a few weeks where he was not able to get the win, and even if he came out with the lead, they would lose it, and it was like, oh man, he was right on the edge, and I wanted to send him a message so bad, like, dude, just like come in out of the bullpen, like sneak a win in somehow, like stop going out there trying to pitch 5 solid innings, like you got to get 200, and time is dwindling. But I agree with you. I watched that game and couldn't have been happier. It's good to hear from your perspective of how intentional everybody was. I mean, as a Adam Wainwright fan, I was rooting him on. I'm sure everybody else in St. Louis was as well. And that's what makes it so hard for me, at least looking at this season, not having the Adam Wainwright, not having the Yadier Molina. It's just such a different feel to this Cardinals team than what I've been used to. Mentioned John Mozeliak with him stepping down after this year. It's such an interesting time. I think, all change is ultimately going to be good, but we're kind of in the middle, and definitely in the middle right now when we're talking about winter warm-up preview, and that's our hot topic. So the good times have to be ahead.
I would hope so. It's interesting to talk about the Mozeliak turnover, right? And it's part of the reason why I'm interested for Monday. Monday is our heavy hitters. We have Ollie talking, Lars Nootbaar, Wilson Contreras, Miles Michaelis, and they have not finalized when Bill DeWitt Jr. and Bill DeWitt III will speak, but they usually speak every year on Monday. So just kind of penciling that in. And it's not expected. I think most organizations, most major league organizations or professional sports organizations, to hear from your ownership group ever is, pretty rare. So I do, want to commend the Cardinals ownership for speaking to the media at least once a year, if not twice or 3 times. I'm excited to see what they have to say just about, the state of the organization in general, but specifically this turnover, because it is a little unorthodox. And look, the Cardinals have been they've been very clear on why Mo is staying for one more year and why Chaim Bloom will take over in 2026. We know about their succession plan. We know about the player development, why that needs to be revamped. And this will hopefully give Chaim a head start in 2026. But it is a little different. And it's not something that is really heard of throughout the rest of sports. So I don't know, Trevor, when you first heard about this, what was your instinct?
My first instinct was that it made a lot of sense. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Chaim Bloom's resume and what he did in Tampa and in Boston. I think in St. Louis we have a lot to look forward to with the changes that he's thinking of and already talking about. But as time has gone on and now we're stuck in the middle of this offseason of continuing to talk about a trade that's not happening and signings that will most likely never happen. It makes me wonder, really, like, how does this all play out? Like, who's calling the shots? Does Chaim Bloom have to get a stamp of approval every time he wants to make a decision by John Mozeliak, or is it more of a hands-off? I mean, for lack of a better term, like, are there just training wheels on this bicycle right now, or when do those come off? And to me, talking about the ownership, and you think about the ownership and them making this decision is, I would be interested to hear what they were thinking about that. And did they not have the full amount of trust in Chaim Bloom just coming in and taking over right away? I don't know. For me, from the outside looking in, a lot of things that just seem hard to navigate in over a long season too. I mean, at what point during the season, I'm sure there's going to be different viewpoints from John Mozeliak's camp to the Heimblum's camp, and they want to go in different directions, and who ultimately has the final say in that decision making. We know next year it's going to be all Heimblum, but as Cardinal fans, we're kind of left stuck in the middle, at least for this 25 season.
Right, because anytime that you're planning something beyond 2025, Heimblum's input is obviously going to be necessary. And when we know that Mo is in charge of the lineup decision, or not the lineup, excuse me, the roster decisions for 2025, and he's more or less running the show, it does feel like Cardinals fans are stuck in the middle, because in order to plan and for years ahead, Heim has to really be on board with it, because it's going to be his organization. So again, I think what the Cardinals are doing makes sense in terms of the player development standpoint, but I would like to ask the DeWitts, just kind of for more clarity on this, how they think this is going, the direction of the organization. Their end of the year press conference, which was objectively a disaster, left more questions than answers, and everyone was on such a time restraint. We really didn't get to get into anything. So I think winter warmup will be a little less hectic than an end of season live televised press conference. So plenty of questions, at least on my end. And I know I'm certainly not the only reporter with things to ask about the St. Louis Cardinals. So I'm looking forward to doing actual work this weekend. It's been a minute. Don't tell my bosses.
Back to work, Katie. Yeah, you got to at least get warmed up for spring training. And so this is your chance. Knock off some of the rust. I'll be there. I'm going to be right alongside you. Take it easy on me. I promise not to embarrass myself. But yeah, if you haven't bought tickets yet, come see us. We're gonna have a good time, at least. That's for sure.
We are. Trevor, did you know I'm introducing you at the Writers' Dinner?
You are?
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure. It's the second to last award.
Okay.
Which means
I have this thing out
off. So that's already a hard thing to pinpoint. But it's a lot of pressure to introduce you, who's introducing Helsley. That's a big chain that I am somewhat responsible for. So we'll keep our fingers crossed.
We're creating memories here early on.
We are. All right, you can. Oh, wow, that was fast. That was 30 minutes. I didn't feel like that at all. You can follow us on Twitter at Card Territory. Like and subscribe to our page on YouTube. We are so close to 2,000 subscribers. That would be so awesome if you did. You can find us on Spotify and Apple as well. We'll be back with you on Friday. Chip Carey is guest hosting, so that's exciting. The voice of the St. Louis Cardinals. And Trevor, I will see you this weekend. I can't wait.
All right, let's go. Thanks, Katie.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll talk on Friday.